The disastrous collapse of UST and the Terra blockchain back in May of 2022 caused a huge collapse and a huge hole in Cosmos DeFi and Interchain liquidity across the board, because UST was by far the largest stablecoin asset across Cosmos DeFi, and a lot of tokens were pegged against UST. So after the collapse, when the dust settled, the question really became big is, who will fill this void? Who is going to provide a decentralized, over-collateralized stable token with the right security measures to become the predominant stable token in the Cosmos ecosystem? And that is exactly the entire purpose and reason for the existence of the Inter protocol and the IST stable token that is built on the Agoric blockchain, which is home and native to Cosmos. Now, IST, or the Inter stable token, is an over-collateralized, risk-managed stable token for the Interchain. Inter protocol, or IST, is not an algorithmic under-collateralized stablecoin, but instead it's over-collateralized, and not just by one asset or one stable token, but by a variety of assets, including stable tokens like DAI, USDC, but also liquid staked tokens, LSTs, such as ST Atom or the recently added ST TIA. And IST is not only a conservative stable token because it is over-collateralized and backed by a variety of different assets, but also because they implemented an additional risk mitigation layer called the Economic Committee. As I said, Inter protocol is built on top of the Agoric blockchain, and if you've been subscribed to cryptosrus now for a while, you have definitely heard about Agoric. Agoric is a Cosmos Layer 1 blockchain, fully IBC enabled, purpose-built for JavaScript developers. There's also a couple of interviews I did here in the past with Dean Tribble, the founder and CEO, that you can find here on this channel. Inter protocol and the IST stable token, which is pegged to the US dollar and went live in October of 2022, is the flagship application as of right now on the Agoric blockchain, because it's also the native gas token for the Agoric network. Inter protocol was built and deployed by Agoric, and the governance for the interstable token is mostly managed by build holders. So when there's a question about adding new assets or deploying new vaults, then that's up to the Agoric governance. But as I said, there's an additional risk mitigation factor, and the Economic Committee is there primarily to also be able to oversee and react in extreme scenarios like we had, for example, remember last year, the USDC DPAC. So this committee is there to be able to oversee those things and, keep an eye on all the crazy volatility that is happening in the crypto markets, to be able to propose ideas or make quick adjustments in case something goes wrong. Now, if we look at a brief history of where Inter protocol actually comes from, the original white paper was announced at Consensus in 2022, in June of 2022. And I think the original idea actually dates back to Cosmoverse 1 in Lisbon, November of 2021. I think that's at least where the first conversations between Zaki and Dian, the founder of Agoric, started to pop up to say, okay, what if we build something like that? A decentralized stable token that is over-collateralized and conservative. And this idea then became a reality in October of 2022, when the first minting mechanism using stablecoins went live, called the Parity Stability Module. And a couple months later, in May of 2023, the first vaults then went live, which let users mint IST or borrow IST using native Cosmos tokens as collateral. And the first one they started with was Atom. After that, they also added more and more assets. Now you can mint IST using ST Atom, ST Osmo, and the most recent launch of ST TIA. This also fits into this modular money thesis, where you now have a stable token that is backed by an LST and by a variety of LSTs. Community is also discussing right now to add STK Atom, which we also did a recent deep dive video about persistence and P-Stake and their STK Atom deployment. And I think also it makes a lot of sense to diversify the risk not only onto different assets, but also when you talk about LSTs, also onto different liquid staking service providers to also mitigate additionally the risks there. What is the big vision and the end game for IST. The end game is to basically have a decentralized and sustainable token, a decentralized stable token that is fully governed and managed by the community and is the largest CDP stable token for the Interchain in Cosmos that is used absolutely everywhere across Cosmos DeFi, but also in most cases as the native gas token across the board. And also that you can mint IST using any major staked assets. So basically they're also focusing a lot on LST-Fi, liquid staking token finance, which is also a huge trend and in my view, one of the biggest things and biggest narratives for this upcoming 2024-2025 bull run. So the broader goal for IST and the Inter protocol is basically to allow for Inter protocol vaults to amplify LST's utility by allowing for broader participation in lending, liquidity provision, and yield farming. The inclusion of LSTs within various DeFi applications, as well as practical utility, such as minting and buying NFTs, which you can already do today on the Omniflix NFT marketplace, and paying gas fees, not only enriches the ecosystem, but also empowers users with more tools for managing their digital assets effectively. And if you're wondering about the benchmark and what are some of the big players in that field, you can just have a look at MakerDAO and the DAI stable token, right? This is one of the OG and kind of oldest implementation of a decentralized stable token. However, MakerDAO and DAI is basically backed by 90% of ETH, and there were also multiple occasions in which the pack either broke or there was an under collateralization, and many people say that this is just not sustainable, right? So Inter protocol and IST is basically the next generation that is refining and making and mastering the DAI model. And while the MakerDAO model has proven to be successful, with DAI reaching a 3.8 billion TVL at the peak and the savings DAI product exceeding $1 billion, it clearly shows that there's strong product market fit here, but there are also shortcomings and weak points of the current DAI model and implementation. IST, on the other hand, is rapidly growing towards being predominantly collateralized by staked assets, theoretically offering a distinct advantage to DeFi enthusiasts over DAI. So Inter is basically modeled at the basis on the DAI model, but actually on absolute steroids, because they're now also merging this with LST-Fi and with Cosmos DeFi in this modularity concept in mind. How does IST actually work? IST, as being an over-collateralized stable token, means you can mint IST either with stable tokens or Cosmos tokens like Atom, ST Atom, ST Tia, ST Osmo, and in the future also hopefully STK Atom and STK DYDX. And for stablecoins, you can mint IST on a 1-to-1 ratio using DAI, USDC, or USDT through the PSM module. And each combination of the underlying stablecoins, bridge, and IBC route has different risks, which also means that the total amount of IST that can be minted from each of these combinations is different. And if you want to mint IST using IBC tokens like ST Atom, ST Osmo, or ST Tia, for example, the amount of IST that you can mint is determined by the value of the asset deposited as well as the collateralization ratio. If the value of the vault's collateral falls then below the liquidation threshold, the vault is automatically liquidated by a smart contract. Keep an eye in that case on the liquidation threshold so that you are not falling from the skies when this event happens. And what's also important to mention is that you can withdraw your asset at any time by paying back the IST plus the stability fees. As of today, more than 3 million IST have already been minted, most of which are already being used across Cosmos DeFi as collateral. And we're going to look into some use cases in a second. But also what's important here, if you want IST, you don't have to mint it. You can also just go on Osmosis or any other DEX or use ibc.fun and you can just buy IST on the open market, which is super easy and can just be done within literally one click. Now, what can you do with your IST once you have them minted? And if you want to maximize really your DeFi yield across the Cosmos ecosystem, you can use IST to provide liquidity on decentralized exchanges like Osmosis, for example, but also on Shade Protocol, which is on Secret Network, so there's also a layer of privacy to it. And you can also use Astro Vault on Archway, which is a brand new Cosmos Layer 1 blockchain that is also implementing CosmWasm. So there's already a couple use cases to provide liquidity. When it comes to lending markets, the primary lending market is on UX, which was previously called UMI. So you can borrow and lend IST on UX, and you can also mint, buy or sell NFTs using IST on OmniFlix. Now to summarize and recap, Interstable token is a decentralized and over-collateralized stable token that is backed by a variety of assets, including liquid staked tokens and pegged to the US dollar. And the goal of IST is to become the stable token for the Interchain and unlock the potential of liquid staked assets, while also bringing back faith to the decentralized stable tokens in general after, again, the disastrous collapse of UST on Terra back in 2022. IST is built on top of the Agoric Layer 1 blockchain and is also the native gas token for that chain. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, you learned something, and stay tuned for the next video in which I'm going to be walking you through the exact use cases, more like a hands-on tutorial, how you can mint IST or acquire IST on the open market, and how you can provide liquidity with it and use it in Cosmos DeFi to really maximize your yield.